This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshipers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
Joe, we are back in Newport Beach for another week of the OC, and I'm going to be honest, I really liked this week's episode. It was like stress-free. It was like exactly what I needed after episode 8, which, if you remember, stressed me the fuck out. There was too much happening in that. This one was like exactly what I wanted it to be, just like a chill-ass, stress-free, teenagers just doing teenage shit type episode.
Yeah. The stakes are fairly low. It's all like, it's very like self-inflicted, right? Like self-inflicted wounds, like they are their own, they are the ones standing in their own way. They're in the way of their destiny.
For sure. This episode, with the exception of like one or two lines of dialogue, like this episode could have just been a 90-minute teen flick plot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it follows like the entire arc of a film in 42 minutes. It's actually very impressive. But let's dive into it. I think what I like about this week's episode is that so much of the past episodes have been Marissa focused or Ryan focused, or like there's everybody's drama throughout the episode, but there's like the A plot has been like some Ryan shit's going down, some Marissa shit's going down. There's some Sandy Cohen or Kirsten shit going down. There's the whole Cooper family drama. This episode, for the most part, the A plot is Seth. And Seth's problems in comparison to every other character's problems is just a relatable, like, lovesick teenager storyline where I'm like, I can watch this all day. Like, this is after the post-overdose plot line of last week, I will take a Seth Cohen is in love with a girl that might not like him episode. Like, let's just strap in and have fun with that. And the return of Anna.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to mention Anna, because I know you like you some Anna right now, right?
Controversially texted a friend of mine who is a huge OC fan, and the joke that I have with this friend is that I am always the person who falls in love with the least liked characters in stuff. Like, not like they're disliked, but like if I could only date one of the 3 women of Friends, I would pick Monica, where I think most people would be like, Jennifer Aniston, she's right there. Why would you go with Monica? Like, she's neurotic and weird. And like, you put Marissa, with me knowing almost nothing about them.
Sure.
You just put Marissa, Summer, and Anna on the table and say, all 3 of these girls are interested in you, but you have to pick one of them. I wouldn't even hesitate to be like, I pick Anna. Like, she's a nerdy, punky, dorky looking girl that like seems like she'd be my jam. And then conversationally, it's like, yeah, this girl's cool. Like, I am still very pro Anna at this point. She literally looks like the lead singer of Letters to Cleo. Like,
she's got the pixie girl haircut without the manic pixie dream girl energy.
Exactly. She's very chilled out. And in case you did know that this episode was going to be Seth focused, the whole first scene is like Seth focused. So it's the first day of school. It took us 9 episodes, but we're finally going to the first day of school.
Yes. Where like White Lotus is already done and people have died like in 7 episodes. We're not even at the school yet.
No, and I'm also equally impressed that episode 9, school starts. Episode 13, it's Christmas already. So like they took 8 episodes to get us to school and 5 episodes to get us to the end of the year. So that's something to applaud, I guess. But there is this delightful scene that I love. I think it's a relatable circumstance for most people who lived through the 90s and 2000s as a kid, or really any decade, which is parents trying to make you feel like you're going to be cool at school that day. And I think it definitely hits its peak with Sandy going, "Oh, you do look rad." But it's such a charming, cute little scene.
I just love like how Seth is so like, it's still very like he's exhibiting like teenage cringe, right? It's like, you look rad, and I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, your dad is fully surfing. Like, that could be embarrassing.
Look, next week we'll talk about Seth really hitting some like high school cringe in a specific scene, but we'll get there because oof. But but I do want to. So we've got that. We're establishing the first day of school for most of the characters, right? So Seth's there. He's fighting with like his family, giving him what he considers to be uncool, weird compliments. And then we also establish Ryan's ability to express a whole lot without saying a word. Through facial expressions and stuff like that. And that's a pretty fun runner. That's a good little joke. I appreciated that. And then we jump over to Marissa and Summer. Summer hanging out with Marissa just before school at Jimmy Cooper's house. And, you know, Jimmy Cooper's really kind of...
Jimmy Cooper's divorce condo.
Divorce condo. Yes, that's true. And you know what? Like, for all the bad that Jimmy Cooper did, right? Man is stepping up as a father figure as much as he can, even if he sucks at making breakfast. And like, I, for one, appreciate that the man is making an effort. Like, it's clear that he's trying.
Yeah.
So we get all of that, and then we're finally at school, and there's stuff going on in the ether.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we establish that Marissa is on a committee to set up a carnival.
She's always on a committee.
Ooh, I hope this is going to be another episode that I like the gamble in the debut. And I'm catching that other theme, right? Like themes that I like on OC 9 episodes in are when the plot lines are like just very digestible teenage love stories, and B, when things are building around some type of community getting together storyline, because we're recording episodes 9 and 10 today. I also really enjoyed episode 10, which also has kind of like community gathering into a singular location for shenanigans to take place. It's a format that I like with this. I like a low stakes plot that builds to like the entire community being there for some drama taking place. Like that seems to be what works for me. A bunch of people stuck in TJ while someone's overdosing, or like a bunch of high schoolers trying to break their friend out of a hospital, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
But this is where Anna comes back. She's back from Tahiti. She did her sailing.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that.
There's a faster way to get to Tahiti.
There's a faster way to do that. Line actually made me laugh. Sailing is so not the fastest way to get anywhere. But Anna just shows up and is straight dropping facts on Seth. And she's just like, I thought you got past the summer thing at the cotillion. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I thought that progress had been made, and progress has not been made. like they have this very cute conversation. And I did write down, you're correct, Anna would 1000% be the type of girl that I would be obsessed with in high school. Like, absolutely. She is every girl that I had a crush on in high school, and every female friend that I had in high school as a singular character. So loving that. What I don't love, and it's a trope that I see in television a lot, I've never personally witnessed this in my life in high school, so I want to know if you've ever experienced it, which is just like people whispering and giggling about something as serious as an overdose. like Marissa's in class and the girls are just like, did you hear she overdosed? Like,
did you hear that she nearly died?
Yeah, like that's what I mean. I'm like, there's this thing where movie teens, especially in high school, are so much meaner than any teen in the history of real life has ever been.
So no, no one. You know what? At least to my face, no one's ever said like, "Oh my god, look at them! They like have anorexia. They could die."
Yeah, exactly. That's
like
what I mean.
I thankfully did not go to a school like that. I don't know people like that for the most part.
No.
I mean,
I was saying that when I watched like Scream. Like, you know that scene in Scream where like Nev Campbell's in the bathroom stall and the two girls are in the bathroom and they're just like, she just wants all this attention just because someone murdered her mother. And I'm like, who? I have never been in any circumstance where a classmate suffered a serious tragedy and the immediate reaction was just like, oh, they're just looking for attention.
Yeah. It definitely says more about them than it does about us.
Yes.
But like I have a dark and twisted sense of humor, but like when it's something that is that close to somebody, I know that I'm restrained, so I hope that other people in real life are like that. But I know as far as practicing restraint, but like I also know that there are probably people who feel this way, and it's just, we're just saying the quiet thing out loud. And high schoolers are shitty. High schoolers are so shitty.
High schoolers are shitty, but I've come to terms, well, not come to terms, that's a very weird word choice. I've come to realize that I don't think high schoolers are as shitty as we think they are. Middle schoolers are shitty. Like it's like middle schoolers into like freshman and maybe sophomore year. But again, I can only compare this to my personal experience as a high schooler and seeing, a couple current high schoolers as well and how their lives are. I've noticed across the board that pretty much once you finish sophomore year and you realize you only got 2 more years and then you are out of this place, like so much of the drama and pettiness just disappears because everyone's just on the same game plan of like, let's just get the fuck out of here successfully in 2 years. Whereas like middle school, you have no filter. You have no understanding of how the world works. You can't even process the idea that when someone did something shitty to you and it hurt your feelings, that you also doing that same shitty thing to another person could possibly also hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
Like middle schoolers are possibly the most profoundly broken gathering of like children.
Oh my god, put that on a t-shirt.
And send it to every middle school teacher on the planet, and they'll be like, yep, they are fundamentally struggling,
like, correct,
in middle school.
This is why we don't have an Abbott middle school.
yes, for sure. Elementary school kids, for the most part, until maybe 5th grade, they're usually overwhelmingly. We should all strive to wear our emotions and hearts as clearly on our sleeves as kids do in elementary school.
Yes.
They just, you never have to guess, is this child sad, happy, upset, whatever, because they'll just tell you. But let's jump back over to what's going on in the sexy love triangle that is Ryan, Marissa, and Luke. There's a great line from Marissa where her and Luke are having a conversation. And okay, so there's a lot of questions I have here, but Ryan is listening in on a conversation between Marissa and Luke. And Marissa says, I just keep thinking, what if I didn't find out? And he's like, don't you understand that I love you? And then she says, and if I didn't find out, I'd probably still love you too. And like, what a great line. How Ryan takes that conversation and like reads it as she has forgiven him and now they are going to start dating and she is no longer interested in me is such a massive jump to conclusions. And I also have to question the logic of when it's like, all right, join a school sport. He picks soccer, which Luke is on the soccer team. It's like, you couldn't do, like, figure out what Luke's not on and pick that sport. Like, I know the man does a lot of sports, but he can't do all of the sports. Like, there will be something.
I think it was like part of my, own internal reasoning for him choosing soccer is because he only knows Luke as the water polo guy, right?
Yeah.
And so
he's like, so I got to go on land.
Yeah. Which, like, you and I both know that, like, sports are seasonal. So, water polo is this season, but, what is he doing in the other seasons to keep himself occupied?
I refuse to believe that two people who I don't think us combined could name 10 sports teams without a little bit of struggle understand the ideas that A, high schoolers play multiple sports if they're athletic, and B, sports take place on different seasons.
Yeah.
But that Ryan, someone who within 2 practices, the coach is already calling Sandy Cohen being like, this kid has the potential to be something great if he could get his head out of in the game. Like, clearly has some type of athletic background and knowledge that this is like a foreign concept to him. But whatever, we get a soccer hit shortly after he overhears this conversation, which not only is it a pretty brutal soccer hit for these 2 stuntmen that are doing this scene, but there's like, I don't know about you, but the way that the shot is framed of Luke laying on the ground, I thought he broke his leg.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was like, what the hell? How hard did Ryan clash into him? Because his leg is like on a weird angle as he's laying on the ground.
Which, like, if this was a 10 episode like arc, if this was a 10 episode season, breaking his leg would come like right now, and it ruins his career and sends him in a downward spiral. They've now are enemies, like,
but we're only a third
enemies.
Of the way through season 1 so far.
Yeah. So it's like it makes sense that, I also thought that, like, oh my God, it's broken, and I, it's been so long, I forget that I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is gonna be what begins the blood feud, but yeah, it turns out that he's fine.
Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah.
While all of the teen stuff is happening, and unless you disagree with me, I think that we can just generically talk about the Sandy and Kirsten stuff, because I think that takes way more of the driver's seat in next week's episode anyway.
Yeah.
But in this episode, we do get the setup that the firm that Sandy now works for is about to sue Kirsten's dad and the company that Kirsten works for. And we'll dive into this a little bit more next week, but I don't care how they write it off, where, like, Sandy very correctly is like, this is not ethical. There's no way this gets approved. And they're just like, no, they love it because it's so unethical. And I'm like, in what court of law? There's no chance. We'll dive into that more next week, but that is the setup for their drama. And there's a lot that happens there. But basically, Ryan and Luke have their soccer fit. Kirsten finds out that Sandy's company is in fact about to sue her company, and that Sandy didn't give her any heads up on it. And this leads to a very awkward dinner scene where Seth is just oblivious to all of it.
Yeah. He's oblivious, but he's also, like, really, he's a little self-involved, right? So, like, it's so funny that, like, looking at this scene and what it's supposed to do is like, wow, everyone has their own thing going on, and Seth is kind of, like you said, he's out of the loop. But it's also, like, his own fault, because he's just already so self-involved with his drama with Summer and stuff. And this is where this is the beginning of what I like to call Joe falls out of love with Seth Cohen,
Okay.
and more in love with Ryan Atwood, because in the beginning, listeners who have been listening know that like in the beginning I was a huge Seth Cohen fan, like gimme, 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 and now looking back on it and in who I am now as a full like early 30s adult, I am definitely see it more for Ryan than I do for
Yeah.
Seth.
Now we'll again. There's a couple things that happen in next week's episode that chilled me to my core because of how much it represented me as a high schooler. But we'll get there. So actually, we'll go with a little bit of that self-involvement with Seth, because what's happening on Seth's side of things is that Anna has taken upon herself to help coach Seth on how to win summer.
Very very like To All the Boys I've Loved Before. It's
Drive
very
me crazy.
Yeah.
She's like
10 Things I Hate About You.
yeah, like that's why I love this episode though. This episode is just a 90s teen flick.
Yes.
Like and I'm all on board for it. But oh my god, Anna's plan is to basically make Seth freeze out Summer a little bit and focus his attention on her in an act of making her jealous. Now, what's clear to apparently not Seth, but very clear to Ryan instantaneously, there might be a little bit of ulterior motives in Anna's plan here.
Yeah.
Which is that she actually has no problem loving Seth Cohen and being invested in him as a person.
Yeah.
As is. Doesn't need any changing to him. She likes him as the dorky Magic the Gathering playing, Death Cab for Cutie obsessed comic book reading Seth Cohen. That is her jam. So that's what's happening there. We'll jump back after one more scene, but things are building towards this carnival. They're all going to go to the carnival. There's a bunch of stuff flying in the air. Ryan kind of has blown it with Marissa yet again by being an angry idiot and accusing her of wanting to take Luke back.
Yeah.
So everybody's romantic everything is in shambles on the teenage side. It's also a little bit of in shambles for the adult Cohens. And that's where we get my favorite scene in the whole episode. This hot tub conversation between Sandy and Kirsten that is so organically cute and charming, and like I'm so fucking compelled by the adults in this show. And I know that we've brought it up a million times, but it's like I almost wish, not knowing what the future is on this show, but based on what I've heard, I almost wish that if the original intent was for this to be the Peter Gallagher show, that they had leaned into that more, because every time that there's these moments, I'm so in. I'm just so connected to what's happening.
Yeah. It's like one of the beautiful things about like the chemistry that they have, right? The chemistry that that Kirsten and Sandy have is just so it makes so much sense, and it's like I just love it. And anytime, and I mean, not spoiler, but kind of spoiler, like anytime there is tension between the two of them, I like want to skip it. Like,
yeah,
I can't.
Yeah, I really don't like, and I think that's also why I didn't like episode 8. You know what I mean? Like episode 8, it's like not only are we dealing with the Julie Cooper anxiety stuff, but there's also like a Cohen family marriage crisis happening in that episode that I'm just like, I don't want any of this. I want none of this.
No.
And I'm so happy to see them like being happy, although I'm sure we're still not out of the woods yet for the Cohen family marriage crisis. It seems like Mona from Friends is just rolling in causing issues.
I was hoping that you would know it was Mona from Friends.
We'll get. I've got again, listeners. I feel like half this episode is an advertisement for next week, but I did take the time, knowing that was Mona from Friends, to sit down and make my top 3 girls that Ross should have ended up with instead of Rachel. list based on his past relationships. Mona might be on that list. But yeah, that's kind of the end of the Coen story for this episode. So we're at the carnival for the rest of this. And look, I get it. I've been on this mic quite a bit today talking about my unending love for Anna and how she was everything I ever would have wanted in high school. What the fuck is she wearing at this carnival? Like, it is the most confused. I am not a fashionista. I am not a man who really understands most of fashion, and I know that early 2000s fashion is one of the worst times for fashion in general. But she's wearing like it looks like a beige skirt with like a scarf tied around her with like a furry vest. Like it is one of the most hideous ensembles I've ever seen on a person. I find very attractive.
It's quirky. That's the thing. It's that let's make her the quirky girl. Let's, her fashion makes no sense, but she doesn't care because she loves it. Whereas like, Summer's like, summer short skirts and very conformist, right? So that's the other thing. It's like we know that she's cool because she doesn't conform.
Yes, very true. Very much like Daria.
Yes, this is like the Daria I would hang out with. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. So they're playing skee ball. Seth disappears. It's just Ryan and Anna for a second, and that's when Ryan's just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah. Like, it's so clear that you're interested in Seth. Like, why are you going down this route of trying to get him with a girl that you clearly don't like that much?
Yeah.
Like, the speech gives her enough gusto to go up and kiss Seth, just right on the lips.
Yeah.
And it could be a beautiful moment until Seth pulls away and asks, "So is this still part of the plan?"
Yeah.
Which is the most boneheaded thing he could possibly say when a gorgeous, dorky punk girl just pulled you in for a loving embrace, is to immediately deflect that moment as, is this all part of the "I'm going to have sex with that hot girl over there" plan?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's not all bad kisses at the end of this carnival now, is it, Joe?
No. No, it's not. Because then first we see a like not reconciliation, but a like, go-getter type moment. I won't stand in your way moment between Ryan and Luke. And which is just like, he apologizes, or Ryan apologizes, and Luke, says nothing but knows that he's just not going to stand in his way. I love Simon, so I'm all about let's kiss on the Ferris wheel type of situation. And then plus I also love that we see like Ryan's weakness. He hates heights. And he still got on for her. Like, how beautiful is that? I want, the man that I love who hates something to do that. I also don't. And also, I don't know if I'd be.
I wouldn't be that man. Like I'm that person who's very, like, let's put it this way. Like, I love I hate sharks. I don't want to.
You want to get a swim with a shark for your love?
Swim with the shark. I'm afraid of jumping from a plane because I'm terrified that the pack won't open. And like, I don't know about you. Do you ever, because we've both existed and probably will continue to occasionally exist on dating apps. There are just certain things where it's like, I want to believe that I'm a man who's willing to try new things. But then there's also times where it's like, I'll find a profile and she could be the most beautiful girl in the planet. But if I'm scrolling through and every single photo is of her on a hike, I'm like, this is not going to work. I am not like, I'm not like, I know that about myself, where it's like, I could go on the occasional hike with you, but the photos and your profile,
is your personality.
Yeah. Like, it's like, I can't do that. Like,
Matt, I fucking love you so much. So similar to you, I like, immediately if one of if their hobbies include working out, swipe left. Like I can't like your hobby is working out. Like no, I'm like working out is not a hobby.
Yeah,
I
working
don't.
out is a thing that I force myself to do maybe 8 to 9 months out of the year. Right now we're in my hibernation stage. It's cold. Right now I'm in the stage, it's winter time. So much like the bears who are currently hibernating, I am packing on the pounds that I will then spend April through October going on daily runs to work myself back to where I was in November, just in time to reload. It
Yes.
continues and continues.
And
but
the
yes,
cycle.
he faces
And
his
the
fear,
cycle is
and then
complete.
finally, 9 episodes into this Romeo and Juliet-esque romance, Marissa and Ryan finally share their first kiss at the top of the carousel. That is not what that is called. The Ferris wheel. They share their kiss on the top of the Ferris wheel. It is actually a beautiful, feel-good episode, minus the ambiguousness of what's going to happen with the Coens and the bonehead comment from Seth. It is really probably the most concise little package of an episode of the OC thus far, I think.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble, who says Valentine's Day is just for couples. Just because you're not in a relationship doesn't mean you can't get out there and live your best love life. That's where Bumble comes in. This February 14th, you can flip the script and give those relationshippers a friendly dose of FOMO. Say no to staying in this Valentine's Day and yes to more. More dates, more first kisses, more gossip for the group chat girlies. Do Valentine's your way. Date now on Bumble.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Okay, I'm going to ask something. It's going to derail us a little bit, so come with me on the journey, all right? Do you have a favorite memory of the first kiss that you have with a person?
All right, you ready for it to be a little sad?
Can I get that as like, I'm going to put that as like the subtitle on your contact info. It's like, are you ready to get are you ready for it to be a little sad?
I'm so bummed that I'm sharing the story. So my very first kiss, this is the story of the very first kiss. It was,
so when you were 20.
No. It was actually, it was
kidding.
the end of 7th grade. My friend at the time was throwing a hey, we're about to be an 8th grade party. Because I'm not sure how you're, I know it works.
It's very Newport.
Yeah, I know it's very different at different places, but for us it was like middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then high school starts at 9th grade. So it's kind of this idea of like, ooh, we're gonna be like, this is like our middle school senior year that we're about to get prepared for, and to set the tone.
Yeah.
Like if you need to think of a time frame, me and this other kid were DJing the party, which literally just meant that we had a CD player and we were putting in CDs and putting on specific tracks. And Limp Bizkit's Significant Other had just come out. So we played a lot of tracks off of that at this party. So that's like the time frame that we're thinking. It's like 1999, about to be 2000 type time frame. Other things that aren't important details to this story, but are worth mentioning. At the time, this kid who I was friends with, I don't want to say his name because we were no longer friends, and also I don't want to be outing anything, but to a 7th grader, I was not aware, but we eventually realized his mom was a lesbian. So his parents were divorced, and his dad lived in one place, and his mom lived in another place with his aunt, who was not an actual aunt.
Got it. A little Susan
it was his aunt who shared a bed with his mom. And we were middle schoolers. We didn't piece anything together until he told us, in something that seems wildly irresponsible, bought alcohol for this party. This party of 7th graders going into 8th grade, they supplied a case of beer. But they had they had a giant in-ground pool. And I don't drink. I've never drank. Everyone else was drinking. I was mostly sticking by the music and playing that. They all went inside the shed to play a round of Spin the Bottle. And there was just myself and this girl, Claudia, who I was friends with. And we got into the pool because we were like, no one else is here. Let's go swimming. And we were swimming in the pool. And she swam up and kissed me. And that was it. Nothing else ever happened. She just kind of kissed me. And we're about to get real sad. But after high school, Claudia moved to France, pursued painting and art, and got really into the bohemian lifestyle, which included getting really invested into a heroin addiction that ultimately took her life.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, no, I told you it was going to get dark. But now it's going to get supernatural, which is that my cousin's wife is a medium.
Uh-huh.
So
okay.
I didn't really post anything. Well, it didn't matter. My cousin nor his wife are on any social media. Like 3 weeks later, I'm driving my cousin's wife to go. We were going to go get wrapping paper to wrap some Christmas gifts while my cousin was away.
Yeah.
And she out of nowhere goes, "Who's Claudia?" And I said, "It was my friend who died. Why?" And she said, "Because she's in the back seat right now." And I said,
Matt, no.
"Why is she there?" And she said, "She just wants you to know that time in the pool was because you look so sad and you didn't deserve to be so sad."
Shut up.
So I'm not one that's like, yeah, people could talk to ghosts. Man, did I believe it hard that particular evening in December. So that's my very long-winded story of
my
the
God,
best, my first kiss. It was a very special moment. Sadly, like the people who I've actually dated, I don't have as good of a first kiss story as the very long-winded story of Claudia. So now I have to throw the same question to you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like yours had like a 3-act structure. It had an epilogue. It had a supernatural entity. Like
it's a very Matt Kelly story for sure.
God, man. Okay, so memorable first kiss. Oh, you know what? It'll be good for me. So I'll talk about my most recent ex.
Okay.
So
the inspiration for this show.
The inspiration for this show. My most recent ex, when we were together, or when we were still kind of seeing each other, we weren't official yet. He was dating someone at the time, someone else. And I told him, I said, I don't want us to be official until you let that person know that it's over.
Yeah.
And but because of that, I don't want our first kiss to be tainted by that. I told him, I was like, don't tell me when you're gonna do it, just like, when it happens, it happens. And so after I was hosting trivia nights at the time. After trivia night, he and I would go get dinner, late dinner, and just hang out. So we went to this Chinese restaurant near my house, had a nice dinner. We get back to the car, and it starts to pour rain. Like it's pouring rain inside the car. And while we're in the car, he looks at me and he's like, "Hey, I just want you to know that like I did it 2 days ago." And I said, "What?" And then he like leans over and I lean over and we kiss.
Aww.
In the rain.
Oh, it's such a cliche. I love it.
I know. It was such a cliche.
And what song swelled underneath it as the camera zoomed away?
Yeah. It was beautiful. He was definitely not as experienced in the ways.
But I think sometimes when it's a good emotional moment and it's something that's been building to, the lack of experience kind of doesn't deter, I guess would be the
No, it doesn't. And it did not. It was just something that I reflected on after the fact.
Yeah.
And it was just and like, not, mind you, we had met in like September, and so this did not happen until like mid-November. So like about
It's like
2
3
months,
months of buildup. Yeah.
2-3 months of buildup of, like all that stuff. And so it was beautiful in that regard.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
don't let I this is just advice for the audience listening. No matter how messy or just how shitty a breakup can be just by the general sadness of it, you're still allowed to fondly remember the parts that were good. like there's nothing
Yep.
wrong with doing that. That's a beautiful story. I like that story, Joe. Ready to talk some music?
Yes.
So this is another one, not that many songs. We got 3 songs in this episode. We got the 88s, who you might know is doing the theme song for Community. They're the band that's playing on the first day of school with their song, How Good Can It Be? When Sandy and Kirsten are having their talk by the hot tub, you've got Solomon Burke's Don't Give Up on Me. And then the first kiss, the big build up to the first kiss with Marissa and Ryan was Paint the Silence by South. So I have to ask you, Joe, what did you pick as the song of this episode?
Well, I really like the first day of school music. I thought it was very appropriate, but of course it's the kiss. Like, of course it's the kiss.
So funny enough, my pick starts off the same way as you, where I was like, oh, I think it's going to be this 88 song. Like, this is just like a good sound of everything. But then I remembered how much I love Simon Burke when that song starts playing and Kirsten and Sandy are having that conversation. There's just the silkiest jazz vocals happening underneath it. I was like, oh, this Please Don't Give Up on Me song is actually making me feel emotions right now. So I'm actually going to go big apologies to the 88s who almost got picked by both of us. but yeah, I went with Solomon Burke on this one. So interesting. But yes, I mean the kiss I think from your lens too, is someone who's probably watched that scene in that moment multiple times. I could see why that's holding a spot more so than like for me on the first viewing. I'm like, ooh, what is this silky smooth soul that's happening right now? Last thing that we have to do on the episode is our pop culture promo. And I need to know, have you watched, listened to, read anything that was a giant pop culture moment, either modern day or in the past, similar to how the OC just dominated pop culture for 3 or 4 years?
I really want to talk about the Harry and Meghan docuseries on Netflix. It is by far the most riveting thing that I've watched in a while. And it's also like, it's so interesting to see like even famous people feel the need to have their stories be heard, right?
Yeah.
And just like the background and how it's not so much that they're poking at the monarchy and the royal family directly, but more the kind of the relationship that the paparazzi and the media have with the royal family and how ultimately that's toxic and harmful, and also kind of like breaking down like the systemic nature of racism in Britain, and also the history of it. Like, it's really it has like the juicy tabloid moments in it, but it also is trying to have very thoughtful, perhaps, introductions to people of these issues of like, media and privacy and racism. So I highly recommend it if anyone cares at all, because that's the other thing too. It's also about a bunch of rich people from like, literal colonizers. We don't have to care about it, but I find that it's actually quite powerful.
Well, Netflix is getting a lot of free promo from us because the thing that I wrote down was the Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion, that also came out around the exact same time, honestly, as the Harry and Meghan documentary. I didn't think it was as good as the first Knives Out movie, but Homeboy does love just a good Agatha Christie inspired murder mystery, and this was no different. And I do think that there was a decent amount of chatter when it first came out and dropped on Netflix, but it also feels like, at the time that we're recording this, it's maybe been 2 weeks since it came out, and I feel like that chatter has completely vanished overnight.
Yeah. I think it's a good film. I've seen it twice already. Like it's a good film. It I think if I watch it one more time, I will start to not think it's a good film. but it's I can't wait to see more of these movies. Like, give me Benoit Blanc everywhere.
I want this to be like on the level of James Bond, where they just keep cranking them out, and like over decades they just cast other people to pay Benoit Blanc. Like, I love the character, and I love the concept of just give us a constantly reoccurring murder mystery that there's only one consistent, which is the investigator that's doing it, and everything else can be a whole new cast of actors and characters. And we'll get to a point where we're recycling the same actors playing totally different characters, and I'm very hopeful that we get there.
It's giving Agatha Christie, Hercule Poirot, especially because it's like that guy has Poirot has like a weird accent, and it's just like very delicious. Like, you've gathered a bunch of people who benefit from your murder, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I love it. Give me more.
His weird little foghorn leghorn accent.
Oh, now you see. Now you see. And I also I don't care. I don't want to know anything about him more. I just want him to exist. I mean, I've asked this before to other people, like, who do we think Benoit Blanc's Moriarty is, right? Like, who is the ultimate villain? And I think that Glass Onion, without giving any spoilers, Glass Onion does a good job in kind of setting that up potentially.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see as we progress if we're going to get there to that.
We'll talk about that off air. Because I agree, but I don't know if I do, but there's no way for me to dive deeper into that without spoiling it for the people who may not have seen it. All right, well, Joe, we saw The Heights, which I guess references the Ferris wheel and something else.
I guess it does, huh?
I was like, this is the toughest mystery of what this episode's title means out of the entire series so far. But next week, there's no question what the perfect couple describes, except for which couple. Dun, dun, dun. So stay tuned for that.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.